Today I'm going to cook a vegan lasagna. It's fresh pasta, which I'm making, or I've already pre-prepared, but I'll show you how simple it is to make. The lasagna itself is going to have Swiss chard, courgettes, lots of mushrooms, walnuts, tomatoes, etc. So we're going to make a nice ragu to go inside. It's going to be layered up, and we're going to make our own bechamel type sauce, and we'll go through the ingredients of that in a few moments. And a lovely little salad that's going to go all the way around it, which is basically tomatoes, onions, and a little bit of lettuce. Enjoy. So let me walk you through the ingredients that are going to make our vegan lasagna. So we've got some olive oil, got some good quality red wine, oregano, some nutritional yeast, some thyme, some chopped walnuts, some tahini. So I'm going to be using that to make my bechamel. But I'm also going to use some oat yogurt, some garlic, some onions. I'm using some tropio onions for my tomato and onion salad. I'm going to use some of these leaves as well. Got the lovely trumpet mushrooms. That's going to form our meat with the walnuts. I'm going to use a little bit of courgette as one of the layers. I'm also going to use some Swiss chard at the back here, and part of the ragu as well is going to be some carrots, celery, and some tomatoes. So I'm using everything fresh. And the very top of the dish is also going to have some cheese. So it's going to have some of this macadamia cheese finish to the top, with a little bit of our good old vegan almond and nutritional yeast parmesan. There we go. And off we go. So I'm going to put a little olive oil in here, and I'm going to chop the onion. So if you're cooking more, so I'm only going to cook for two, but if you're cooking for more people, you need a slightly larger onion than this. One large onion would be absolutely fine, and all you want to do is you want to dice this down. And the intention is the onions and the celery and the carrots will go into the pan pretty much at the same time. They'll reduce down. It's called a mirepoix, and they form the basis of our lovely ragu that's going to go into the centre of the dish with a little bit of garlic. So just pop the onions in there, seal them away, a little bit of garlic. I always tend to put my garlic in later than my onions, only because garlic will burn, and then if it does burn, it does taste rather acrid. You don't want that. I've been to places where they put the garlic in really early, and you end up with this horrible burnt garlic flavour. You don't really want that. Okay. Give that a good stir. Now this dish, being a traditional Italian style dish, goes really well with a hearty Chianti, or something like Valpolicella, Ripasso, or a Montepulciano, Vino di Bill Montepulciano, something like that. So something sort of medium to full body. And because this is also the vegan version, you could get away with something a lot lighter. And I'm just quaffing away on would you believe, my Italian friend sacrilege, a French wine. I'm quaffing away at a bit of a French wine. Now, this French wine is it's actually very mild. It's a very simple quaffable wine. I'm just going to chop outside of this off. Don't really need to take much of this off. Actually, I've scrubbed these down, so there's no dirt on them or anything like that. But the purpose why I just did that is I get it relatively flat. And all I do here is I'm going to drop this down.
So because it's quite a cool day and it's rainy and everything, so like a red wine is quite nice for this time of day. But also you could have like a rosé or a white wine would
No
go
reason why
perfect.
not, yeah. And
Could pair it quite well.
but also, you know, just because it's a red wine doesn't mean to say you have to have it cold. Sorry, hot. Or just,
Room temperature.
Sorry, hot. Hot red wine, that'd be weird. Room temperature, you don't necessarily need to. You can
Unless it's Christmas and then you want mulled wine.
Yeah, I don't think mulled wine would go quite that
No,
well with it. But you could have a nice simple wine like this one, which I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's a nice little organic wine that I got from our little local farmers market.
And it's biodynamic.
It's biodynamic, yeah. It's from a small producer. It's very, very simple, easy on the palate, but can be drunk cold. It's great.
Yeah, some people like to put ice cubes in the red wine, don't they?
Yeah, I find that a bit weird, but there you go.
Yeah.
So, there we go. Let's go straight in there. And I just want this to just cook down. So you want this to sweat down. I'm just going to reduce the light on this. I'm going to reduce the light on that because that's quite hot. The purpose of this is I'm going to make sure all the stuff goes in. I'm going to sear a few courgettes. And the reason why I'm searing them is they will add a little bit of colour, a little bit of flavour to the whole dish. And also, it takes out some of the moisture as well. I'm not going to do anything with it apart from just pop them straight down onto the griddle. Let's just give this a stir.
So are we keeping the onions quite translucent?
Yeah, the idea is this will slowly but surely dissolve into the food. Really the purpose behind this is to give lots and lots of intense flavour. So I'm going to add a little bit of thyme in here. I'll let that gently cook through. Smell that now,
Smells nice.
quite a nice aroma. Now,
Yeah.
just in the background, I pre-prepared some of the pasta. So I made a very, very simple dough. Basically semolina, 3 parts semolina to 1 part double O flour, and a little bit of turmeric, a little bit of salt, and that's the colour that you get. And what we've done is some really nice thin little pieces of pasta there, and they're going to go into our moulds.
So how many millimetres would you think of thickness? You should...
Well, as thin as you possibly can, to be honest with you. But as this is quite fresh, it's going to cook through quite quickly. If you were to buy your pasta, which is not a problem at all, just quite happily do that. Just make sure you give it a little bit of love beforehand. So you can either pop it into a little pan just to warm it through. Either that, or make sure there's lots of extra sauce in your lasagna, so that helps cook it through as well. I have my pans here. They're cooking through too. Okay. Great. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly, while I'm waiting for that to cook down, I'm going to quickly just prep my salad. So I'm doing a very, very simple, I've washed these tomatoes already. I'm going to do a very, very simple Italian cherry tomato salad. So I've got these lovely Italian cherry tomatoes yesterday from our good friends at Natura. And I'm just literally going to...
Other brands are available.
Other brands are available, yes. Just sharpen my knife at some point. And this is going to form a really nice...
They are amazing tomatoes there. All the produce is amazing.
It is great.
Look at those, just look at those, look at the colour, beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely, bright, vibrant colours.
And the taste is amazing.
Yeah, that's the big difference. That's the reason why we go to this place, is because the flavours of their tomatoes, all their stuff comes from little producers, and the flavours of all their tomatoes, their vegetables is tremendous, absolutely tremendous. So we're going to use half of this because it's only the two of us having this. I'm just going to simply just chop that down. Like that. I'm just going to pop that in there. And just give this a quick turn over. There you go, you can see there's a bit of colour in there, but we're also taking out some of that moisture. You can see that it's literally wilting down. Perfect. One item I forgot. Let's give it a big shout out to our little farmers market. So from our farmers market from Campania, he makes a really great olive oil, and he also had this really nice balsamic vinegar from Modena. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in there. Just a little bit, not a lot. And a little bit of oil. Okay, I'm going to save that for our finished product after. So I'm just going to mix that up. That's going to form our beautiful finished product. The one thing I've forgotten here, and I'll bring it in a second, is some lovely basil. I'm just going to get some basil in a few moments. Nice bit of fresh basil there. Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to be looking at setting our courgettes aside in a minute. Just pop this down over here. That's courgettes. Look as though they're cooking through. You can see now that you can see through them, which is perfect. That's what we're looking for. So that'll form two of our layers. So this is cooking down, as you can see, which is great. Now I'm going to chop down some mushrooms. So I'm using trumpet mushrooms. The reason why I'm using these is they're lovely and meaty. So here we go, this is our trumpet mushrooms. We're just going to cut those down.
So would you say these mushrooms have got quite a dry texture? They're quite chewy for people that are not that familiar with this?
Yeah, so they're not quite like a shiitake, and they certainly don't smell like a shiitake, but they are, yeah, somewhat chewy. They're very, very meaty. They're certainly great if you were to try and emulate a cold meat type dish, because as you can see here, it's quite fibrous. You see that? It's quite fibrous, and that makes it the ideal texture as an alternative to a meat of any nature, really. But you know, you could, if you can't get hold of these trumpets, then certainly grab hold of some. I mean, that's a brilliant one there. Look at that.
It's beautiful.
Look at that baby.
Gorgeous.
But if you can't get hold of trumpets, by all means grab hold of some shiitakes. They do work well with this dish. Just putting that ready. Just going to colour that side of these courgettes. these are going to be, I'm going to cut them right down the centre, and they're just going to be layered in between, which will make the final part of our dish. I'm going to take all the moisture out now. So the thing about mushrooms is you don't realise just how much water they retain. And washing mushrooms, right? Some people say don't wash mushrooms. I wash mushrooms. The reason why I dampen them down straight afterwards and leave them for a bit so that they dry out. But some people say don't wash mushrooms, but let's be perfectly honest, you don't know what's been on them. Okay, so while we're waiting for this all to take place, I'm going to simply add some tahini. So I have some really thick tahini here, and make a sort of nutritional yeast bechamel. So I'm going to take all that tahini and so. And the reason why I'm using this is that it's a great substitute for, I'm going to use some nutritional yeast, great substitute for you know, creams and making a roux and so forth. So I'm just going to mix that in. And then what I'm going to do, surprisingly, is add some oat yogurt to this. Okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water. And you'll see what happens in a minute. Might have a little bit more nutritional yeast. But I'll add all the nutritional yeast. It's great for you.
B12. Well, the one with added B12. You can get one without added B12.
Yep, it's the one with added B12. That's correct.
And we all need our B12 if we are plant-based or vegan, whatever how you prefer to call yourself.
Yep, correct. So, yeah, take that out. There we go. And just put a little lid on the top, and we're going to do a little cocktail shake. And you can actually hear that thickening up. There we go. And that should form a nice sort of cream there. Yep.
Very nice.
Let's just quickly take a look at how our mushrooms are doing there. You can see they're cooking through nicely. These should be ready. That's perfect. We finish with this now, so we can take that out. And now we can add our walnuts. I'm going to add a lot of walnut in there. Now, the nice thing about this is I've made this for 4 people. There's only 2 of us going to be eating this. If you're making this for 2, then half the amount of walnuts. Now I'll be sharing the recipe on my website. For 2 people, roughly 100 grams of walnuts, but you can find that on vegveganchef.com and also on YouTube, so you'll see this on YouTube. So this is now cooking down. We're now going to pop in, I'm going to raise the temperature a bit, let's just bring that up. Once that temperature's raised, I'm going to pop in some nice red wine, and then I'm also going to chop up some tomatoes, as you can see here, some manzano tomatoes. These are the ones, if you're not familiar with these, you get in many supermarkets these days. It used to be hard to grab hold of. But some manzano tomatoes are the ones that are usually on your pizza. So if you go to a great Italian restaurant, this is the one that's on your pizza, and it's delicious.
They're quite a soft tomato, aren't they?
It's relatively soft. It's full flavoured though, which is always nice. So this is going to start cooking down. So you can see now it's forming a sort of meat, but the colour is quite sparse, isn't it?
At the moment.
Yeah. And that's purely because we've not done anything with it. So now we're going to add our red wine. Now watch the colour change as I stir this through.
And now it looks like mint.
Now it's getting the depth of colour of the mint, that's right. So now we're going to raise the temperature of that, which I did a moment ago. and then we'll be putting in our little salt, little black pepper, and our tomatoes and the oregano. Some people don't put oregano in a ragu. Actually, I believe traditionally it's not normally done, but as this is a vegan one, we want to try and bring out all our flavours as much as possible. I'll tell you what's quite nice to put in here as well. If you weren't using walnuts or puy lentils is really good in that.
And how many would you put in? How many grams of?
Puy lentils, the same amount as you would do for the walnuts. So if it's for 2 people, roughly around about 100 grams. So you can see here, this is now starting to get colour. That's what we're looking for. This is starting to reduce down now. I'll give that a few more moments. Starting to look more like a mess. So we're now going to get back to our pan. That's reducing down really nicely. We're going to add in just a little dash. A little dash of tomato puree, just to give a little bit of colour, extra colour in there. I'm just going to cook that out for a second. Colour coming in, and then we're going to add in our chopped tomatoes. You can see this, certainly for us, I mean, we're only using some of this ragu today, but you could use, you can make a lot of this as a ragu and have this with, some penne pasta another day. I'm going to let that cook down. And I'm going to add my oregano. I'm going to save a little.
How many teaspoons would you say that is? Or a tablespoon?
That's roughly a tablespoon of oregano. And you can smell that starting to really smell like a pretty decent ragu. No salt, no pepper. So I'm going to put this is rock salt, Himalayan rock salt. Flavour's quite good though. A lot of black pepper, always like black pepper. Lovely. That's very good. Okay. And that's only going to get better. And now we're going to leave that for approximately 5 or 6 minutes. So let's go and have a look at our ragu that's been simmering away. And here we go. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, please make sure that during the course of the whole of the cooking, you're stirring it, because the last thing you want is for it to stick in the pan, but that's what you're looking for.
And how long would you let this reduce down for?
Well, I added some water in there, and perhaps it wasn't a very, very good idea to add any water because there's plenty of tomato water that we sat inside there, but probably around about 15 minutes. You want to reduce that down at a relatively high light so that you get to this particular stage. And then we're raring to go. So normally we'd allow that to cool down, but we're doing this for speed, for taste, and all those other good things. So we're going to get, now you could layer this in a giant, a large Pyrex dish or deep dish and layer it like a lasagna and slice it up, but I'm I'm going to make this look a little bit pretty. I'm also going to get my lovely pasta, so I'm going to bring my pasta across over here. Put these to one side, bring my pasta across, and I'm going to start layering these in. So I'm going to start with some pasta. So my pasta has gone just a little bit firm, which is fine. That's the idea. The idea is to drain out. So it can crack a little bit, that's no big deal. So it's going into the bottom. And then I'm going to put some of my lovely ragu in the base and layer that in. So that's the first layer going in. And the same on the other side. So what you're going to have is a whole series of lovely layers of meaty goodness from meaty mushrooms and lovely walnuts, and then I'm going to put a few of these lovely little courgettes in there.
And of course you can use the green courgettes if you want to as well, can't
You can, yeah. So these courgettes are currently in season at the moment, so that's the reason why they're going in there. You can use a whole load of different ingredients. If you fancy,
you could use peppers, couldn't you?
You could use peppers.
They'll have to be a bit more watery, wouldn't they?
Yeah, sear them off and they'll be great. A few little zucchini left, I might trim those down and pop them in. You can hear the cat in the background, which is always great. I'm going to put another layer down, and then I'm going to put some of our vegan bechamel. Hi Sia.
Sia approves.
Sia does approve. She's a big fan of this sort of food. So it's going down there. Our vegan bechamel, which is tahini, all the goodness of tahini, and oat yogurt. So it will go in there.
You don't have to use oat yogurt. You mean you could use almond or cashew?
Absolutely right.
Yogurt.
Yeah. The only reason why we used oat yogurt is because we had oat yogurt in. So that was the deciding factor. Then I'm going to put some chard in there. Chard in there. Then some more of the ragu. Okay. A bit more ragu there. Try and get it into all the different corners, so when it does come out, we've got a lovely layered effect, which is what we're looking for all these different layers. Okay. A layer of pasta. Just put that down. And then I'm going to just quickly trim some of this courgette. I'm going to do a little bit of a mix of courgette and chard, the final bit, and then we're just going to add the bechamel onto the top. Okay. So add. Hello, Sia. Hello. Wow. So there we go. So here we go. So the blood is going in. Final bit will be the bechamel and the cheesy bit on the top, which is, I'm using the macadamia nut type of cheese. Finish it all off. So here we go. So this bechamel goes right on the top. This will cook all the way through. But also what they'll do is add the moisture, which is what we're looking for. The nice thing about using tahini as a bechamel is A, it's very, very healthy. B, it's made of sesame seeds, so it's going to add a lot to your, if you are vegan, it's going to add a lot to your diet, which is great. And it's got lots of great vitamins sat inside it. Now we're going to use, so I'm using a really nice macadamia nut cheese. It's going on the top. So this is actually macadamia nut and nettles, would you believe?
Nettles.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So it's little bits of nettle and thyme there. It is nice. And this is going to add quite a lot of deliciousness to the dish. And then the final bit is, let me just wipe my hands. My vegan parmesan over the top. And of course, nothing better, oregano to finish. And that's going to go in the oven. It's going to bake for about 10-15 minutes, probably about 15 minutes thereabouts. Okay, so it's going to go straight in the oven.
180 degrees.
180 degrees. So go straight in the oven, 180 degrees, and we just leave it. Let's get our lasagna out of the oven. And here we go. So make sure we switch our oven off. And we're going to just quickly pop a little bit of fresh
Wow, smells really lovely.
oregano on the top. A little bit of fresh vegan parmesan on the top. And we're going to put a little bit of black pepper on there as well. I'm doing that now because it'll help with the presentation in a few moments. Okay, so there we go. That's our dish. We're ready to go. We're ready to present. I've got a little bit of basil set to the side. So what I've done is just got a little bit of nice lettuce to one side. That's where our tomato and onion is going to go across the lettuce, and then we're going to pick up one of these lovely pop that right in the centre there, right on the top of it. Gently try and remove this.
Careful with fingers, of course.
It should come away. Not doing. Might have to just chop it down. It'll be the top layer that causes the sticking because we put a macadamia nut cheese on it.
look at that.
So it's our vegan lasagna.
Beautiful.
And we're going to drop a few lovely tomatoes around this dish.
And tasting the ragu earlier, you know, you could really impress your friends with this because you wouldn't even have to tell them that it's not meat.
Correct. You don't need to tell them at all. There's absolutely no need whatsoever. There we go. Let's get a little bit of basil on the top. Let's get a little bit of basil around the sides. Okay. And then we're going to finish that off. Just a little bit of olive oil over the top. Good quality olive oil. And voila.
Beautiful. Looks absolutely delicious. Smells gorgeous as well.